Down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that he shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and the twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk. And laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Merry Christmas!
Now, I'm sure I didn't do that poem any justice, but I'm sure you recognise the very famous words from the very famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, what is more commonly known as Was the Night Before Christmas, which was written by Clement Clarke Moore in 1823. It was from this poem we were given the beloved conception of Santa Claus that we all now know and love. The poem also gave us Santa's flying companions, which have pulled his sleigh ever since. Right, let's see if I can remember all of the 8 reindeer. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. And if you thought I forgot all about poor old Rudolph, he came much later when a department store created him in 1939 to sell books. This is a version of Santa Claus that we have all come to know and love. The jolly fat man dressed in red who goes around the world in one night delivering presents to every boy and girl. But did you know Santa's origin goes back way before this poem was ever written? Hundreds of years before, in fact. And it's not quite as festive as you might think. The first accounts of Santa Claus date back to 280 AD in Patara near Myra in modern-day Turkey, where a monk named St. Nicholas became admired for his great kindness. It is noted in history that St. Nicholas was born into a wealthy family. When his parents died, he inherited all the fortune. But St. Nicholas chose to give all his fortune away and decided to live a life travelling around the countryside, helping the poor, the sick and the needy. Many stories were written about the kindness of St. Nicholas, but here are a few of the best known. The story goes that St. Nicholas saved 3 sisters from being placed into prostitution by their father, who was finding it hard to put food on the table, and for some reason thought this was the best way to raise money. St. Nicholas decided to help by visiting the home of the father and the 3 daughters late at night and throwing bags of gold coin through the window and saving the family from such desperate acts. Another version of this story explains the tradition of hanging stockings from the fireplace for Santa to fill with gifts. In this version, St. Nicholas throws a bag of gold coins down the chimney and it accidentally lands in a drying stocking which is hung above the fire, thus creating the tradition that we all know and love today. Although St. Nicholas did wish for his great acts of kindness to remain secret, news soon did spread of St. Nicholas's kindness every time someone received a secret gift. Another story tells of some sailors who were caught out at sea in a dreadful storm on the coast of Turkey. The sailors prayed for St. Nicholas's help, and all of a sudden there he stood on the deck of the boat. He then turned to the raging waves of the ocean and ordered them to calm, allowing the sailors to sail safely to shore. Another tale tells of 3 travelling students who stopped off at an inn on the way to Athens. Unfortunately, the innkeeper murdered them all and placed their dismembered corpses into pickling barrels. Sometime later, St. Nicholas was also travelling past the inn and decided to make a stop. That night, as St. Nicholas slept, he had a dream of the crime that had been committed by the innkeeper. The next day when St. Nicholas awoke, he prayed to God to restore life to the 3 dead boys, and the miracle he prayed for was granted, and the 3 dead boys return to life. An alternative version of this tale tells of 3 younger children who were murdered, instead of the 3 students. This time murdered by a butcher, rather than an innkeeper. And as before, life is once again restored to the 3 children. And from then on, St. Nicholas becomes known as the patron and protector of children. And then throughout St. Nicholas's life, other tales are told of him saving people from famine, being wrongly accused, and much, much more. Sadly, on the 6th of December 343 AD, St. Nicholas passed away in prison, after the Roman Emperor Diocletian persecuted him for his Christian faith, and Nicholas was buried in the church at Myra, where he had served as bishop. But even after his death, his reputation lived on, and many more stories of his good deeds appeared. St. Nicholas's Day has been celebrated for hundreds of years, and over time he has slowly become the fat jolly man in red we all know and love today, who somehow delivers gifts to every child in the world in one night. And St. Nicholas is not the only name he now goes by. Here are just a few: Papa Noel, Kris Kringle, Peltzer-Nickel, Santa Claus, and as we like to call him here in the UK, Father Christmas. And before we go, I'd like to leave you with the poem that we started with, that was written by Clement Clarke Moore in 1823. It was a night before Christmas, this time done professionally. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All the best. I'll see you next time.
Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Davis Drake. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew at a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled, and he shouted, and he called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. And as dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they met with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetops the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."